Okay, we're live. Michael Knight, down there in Pasadena, California, in your backyard, I take it.
This is the palatial apartment deck with the palatial apartment fence behind me.
Well, it's always good to be out in the backyard during an eclipse, I would think. Unless, of course, it's a dangerous eclipse. In which case, just turning my volume off here because, as probably millions are, I'm watching CNN. I'm not participating in the eclipse madness this time. I did it last time, and it was an unforgettable experience. But I'm safe at home up here in Seattle. Now, what are you seeing down there in the skies above Los Angeles, above Pasadena?
We have UFOs. We have explosions from television shows being filmed across town. We have birds that are negotiating with the mockingbirds because they're too loud at night. And we have Trump supporters staring directly into the sun as under the directions of their leader. And that's not the only cult we have. We have the Scientologists who are working on rape cases. But other than that, it's a perfectly normal day here in Los Angeles, where temperatures are going to be around 73 degrees, although it's not that way right now. And I think we should give some credit, not to CNN or MSNBC or any of I don't think Fox is covering the eclipse because it's not part of their fake news talking points today. It's the only network that's in fact, I'm disappointed in the state of Texas. I couldn't be more disappointed in the state of Texas. They had the opportunity to legislate against this, but they're letting the eclipse cross their border, proceed through the state with no regulations whatsoever, bringing darkness, uncertainty, and chaos to their state. And they had an opportunity to stop this. With Donald Trump, they just listened to him. They could have done something to prevent this from happening. But as it is, the sun and with its eclipse trailing behind it, has crossed the Texas border and done so with impunity. It's an outrage.
Yeah, okay. Yes, they could have done all of that. They could have told. I'm sure that the Trump people, I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene is locked up in a cage somewhere.
Well, she will stampede or else go to bed for 4 minutes when it gets dark, and then spring back into action and continue her life dedication of non-legislation.
Yeah, at some point she will explode in that cage before 4:00 this afternoon. I think it's listen. It's a cool event. All kidding aside for a second. It's a cool event. It's something now. I'm hearing something I've never heard before today from certain news people, and I really don't. I don't know if they know this for sure or not, or they're just throwing out there. See, that's the problem. You can't trust the news these days. But there have been a number of people who have come on to certain news stations saying that you can look at the sun without the sunglasses for a very short time when it's in a certain position. Now,
well, just do it and get it over with.
That's contrary to anything I've ever heard about, and I've been through a few of these eclipses. I know how they work. The sun is here and the moon goes there, and and never have I heard anybody that I remember saying that it is okay at any point in time to look at the sun without glasses. Who is responsible for knowing exactly when you can look, and how will you let us know when we can look? Because like any idiot, I have looked up into the sky at the eclipse at some point, saying, "Oh, this is all bull crap." They don't, and I guess I've just been lucky that it hasn't affected my vision. But I did that when I was a kid to the screams of my mother out the back window.
I think all children should. I think all children should look into the sun immediately, see how far they can take it.
Well, not until we have an actual health.
I think the idea that warning people not to look into the sun just makes them look into the sun. So get to it. Look directly into the sun, and,
Well,
and
anybody
sustain,
that's looked into the sun knows that that's
sustain that
not.
for as long as you can.
Yeah, well, anybody who does that, uh, you know,
Where did you hear this advice on national news that you
it
can look
was
into
on
the sun under
CNN. I mean, yeah, it has to be on CNN because I was watching CNN. Yet I'm seeing people now on the internet saying, "Don't look into the sun at any time for any circumstance, no matter how much you think you know, you don't know. So don't do what some idiot news people are telling you to do." And I would tend to agree with that.
Well,
I would think if you're looking for
always.
trouble, look into the sun. Now here, you can look into the sky all day, and you're not going to see any sun. There's no sun here. I'm trying to see if I can possibly give you a look at the sky here, and
Can't be done. Do you know which direction the sky is in Seattle? Because you're not
yeah,
from there.
no, no, wait a second here.
You know who works the hardest today? Not the Earth, not the sun, but who?
Who works the hardest today?
The moon. The moon does all the work.
Yeah, the moon's got to. Well, the moon always does all the work because the moon's pulling on the tides. The moon so many songs are written about the moon.
The moon meets your eye like a big pizza pie.
That's amore when you see that. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, let's see if we can make this happen. So
So
we'll
does the
add
moon get
this
time
in.
and a half?
All right, so we got the Vinnie cam going, and can you see the sky out there?
It, I'm forecasting sun breaks for a
I don't
neighborhood
think
where
there's a
you are
sun
not.
break within 15 miles of us, pal. I don't think there's anything. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get up and walk out here for a second, and I think you can see that
What
there
we
is.
can't do is can't hear you very well, Ben.
There's nothing out there. Let me try one other thing. How about now? Can you hear me better?
It's better.
Yeah. I mean, no sun. That's over there. That's out there. That's up there.
The effects of the eclipse are going to be only about 20% in Seattle. They'll be 50% here in Los Angeles. So I thought that I would see the reduction of the sun if I came outside, but right now we're in the lee of the building without sun directly on us, and it's chilly. California cold, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. It's
You
now.
would say that is not chilly, Mr. Knight. That is what you call a beautiful sunny day in Los Angeles. Well, yeah, but we're not accustomed to being cold at any time. We want to wear t-shirts and shorts and be comfortable wherever we are. And it's only with the unfortunate alignment of the sun, the planets, and the moon today that I'm in the shade at this moment. But the sun is about 10 feet away from me over there, so it's moving toward me all the while. But it will be reduced by 50% when the totality hits its maximum.
Well, the totality. I guess I have a friend in Maine, and that friend in Maine is probably in the luckiest place because, as you know, I mean, I've been talking about this for months about planning a trip to go, and for a couple of different reasons, I could not wind up going back this week. And it's starting to look like that's the wisest decision I may have made because unless I'm in Maine or in Cleveland, which is quite a choice, you're not going to see much of anything. The skies over Niagara Falls, which is where I was headed. Actually, I was headed a little under Niagara Falls to a town called Chautauqua on Lake Chautauqua in upstate New York, is under a cloud cover. You can't see anything. So they're just going to have to take the word of the gods that it's a little darker behind the clouds, and so that's the eclipse. That's what they're going to get.
All the bad stories in Greek mythology begin with taking the advice of the gods. So proceed cautiously. They
Well,
like to mess with
I
you.
was thinking before, Michael. I mean, what the hell must have it been like 500 years ago? When you got the ox and you're plowing up whatever you're plowing up there, and the Inquisition's going on, but there's no morning newspaper yet, so you're not reading it. The only thing you know is that you're on Earth and there's this little piece of land that you're living on, and you're growing some food. And every once in a while, you take a cow and you slaughter them and you eat that, fry that up because fire was already invented. Um, and now all of a sudden, 2:05 in the afternoon, the whole place is going dark. I mean, that had to have an effect on some people, probably drive some of them insane.
At least for the rest of the day. Temporary insanity.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you see when you look up and you see the sun and you depend on so much for the sun, for light, for heat, for growing your vegetables, for doing all the stuff that it does, for catching a good tan if you're in LA. Um,
But then after the eclipse, the sun comes back out, and you've got to go back to work. And people then begin to use the phrase "I'm not in the mood." That was the origin of that phrase.
well, I think that I think that at the very least it was the first iteration of I'm working from home today.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm calling this one
who's
in.
going back to work? But I'm also thinking that work back then was much like being home anyway. I mean, what did you do? What were the jobs back then?
Well,
You
if
basically
the
had
if
this
the
piece of land and you grew stuff on it, right?
it was an agrarian society, except for the priests, they got money from the community to make robes, and they dress differently.
Yeah, or you were an explorer. You got out on a ship. Now that must have been really screwy. Is let's say you're Magellan or Vasco da Gama or one of those cats, and now you're in
Uh,
your ship and you're headed to or Henry Hudson. And you're in your ship because this is right in the kind of the sweet spot of the exploration age, right? We're talking about the 1400. So now you're in your ship, and all of a sudden you're looking up and there's the sun, and you say, okay, well, as long as I'm following the sun,
I know where
I'll
I'm
be
going.
okay. I know where I'm going. And all of a sudden the sun, like I said, that same 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun is gone. All of a sudden, a little bit of it disappears, and a little more, and you go, hey, Christopher, get up here on the bridge. We need you. And he gets up on the bridge of the Santa Maria, and he's looking around, and he's going, we're losing the sun. This is it. The party's over.
We've lost the Nina, we lost the Pinta. Now we're going to lose the sun.
We got nothing here. Heard all the cat. What about Noah? And he was in the ark.
Well, let's get back to Vasco da Gama. When the sun goes down, you have to stop subjugating the natives. You can't subjugate them until the sun comes up in the morning because
I
you
don't
can't get a
think
good look at them at night.
if I were subjugating natives, if I was Vasco da Gama or De Soto or one of those
Beef
early
Oldsmobile.
explorers, Marquette or Cadillac or several of the or Chevrolet. I mean, all of those guys who have car names now. Um, I would certainly I would think twice about subjugating people if I looked up and saw the sun just go away. I would be setting people free and saying, "You're on your own here. Go, live your life."
By the
I've had a
time that
life
you
experience.
by the time you consider all the terrible things that are going to happen to you now that the sun is gone, gradually it comes back, and you say, "Well, we dodged the bullet that time. Resume speed." Or do you say, "It was only the thoughts that I had while there was no sun that made the sun come back, so I have to keep thinking that way"?
Yeah,
Or
everybody
do you
back in
say,
your shell.
maybe the sun didn't go away? Maybe I imagined that. You know how they do on television where they always think it's the wind?
They have that dream
The, go,
sequence
the,
thing.
the ghost
All
the
this.
ghost comes in, grabs you by the throat, and sets the bathroom on fire. And you say, it's probably the wind.
Yeah, I think that's. I'm thinking now that's possibly what could happen in a situation like that. Because yeah, these never last long. I mean, they last 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and that's it. So it's at the very least you're sitting there thinking temporary insanity. Um, but that's then, and this is now, and now people turn it into a party. There's a mass of people that are watching it in Arkansas, and I guess the deal is there. If you bring a cousin, you'll get married. You can get married, but you have to be able to prove that it's like blood relation.
Can you bring John Calipari to the Arkansas
You can
party?
bring
And
whoever you
you
want.
get
It's
you
just
get
that you
anything
could.
for that?
Well, yeah, I guess they're just thinking, let's get this over with in one fell swoop. I don't know why you would think that standing under the eclipse would mean anything to your marriage, but there's enough people that they're having a huge ceremony down in Arkansas. Um, I know that the spiritual center of the East Coast, Lilydale, has opened up their gates today. You know, they don't usually open up until. And Lilydale is a spiritual community that's in northwestern New York, not too far
What
from Chautauqua. They're opening up their gates
what
today.
are they known for? What do they do on a good spiritual day?
It's one of these spirituality centers. It's where all of the people, not all of the people, but many of the people who believed in spirituality and the afterlife and contacting the other side, all of that stuff got this piece of land on a lake in upstate New York, and they all now either gather there or live there or take classes there or have different events there um, that reinforce their belief of spirituality. And it's a worldwide known center of people who believe that you can contact people on the other side, that there is something else that controls our lives besides ourselves, that we are, that it's not just us, that we can contact people, all of the spirituality stuff that that actually is pretty popular in California, really, much more than
But
back
we
east.
define
But
our
I guess it was
spiritual
very popular back east.
we define our spiritual communities based on not what we love and what we believe in, but who we hate and who we exclude. Um,
Well,
and
in Lilydale, you don't have that, or at least you appear not to have that.
they love
You have
everybody. That's not going to work.
it's I've been there a bunch of times, and it definitely seems to be a place where people are tuned in on a different level to life and to possibility. I think it's all about possibility, Michael. I mean, I think that people look at this stuff and they see possibilities that hate does not offer them, and they want to be with other people that believe that like they do, and so they settle in this community or nearby it, and there's definitely a buzz when you walk into the place. You can tell that there's, it's like going to a cemetery. You can tell that there's stuff going on. Well, Lilydale has a little bit of that going for it. As you walk through, you can just you can tell that there's something different going on at this place.
Good.
And they opened up for the eclipse. I don't think they're going to be able to see it because the weather reports that I'm getting from northwestern New York and Erie, Pennsylvania, and so on and so forth, is that there's a thick cloud cover. So that's probably where I would have been or near there for the eclipse, and I may have saved myself a whole bunch of money here because, as you could imagine, hotels, motels, any place that you can stay, Airbnbs. There was one hotel in upstate New York near Niagara Falls was charging $949 a night to stay in their hotel, where the usual rate was $94 a night. So in good old American spirit,
In the spirit of America.
in the good old free entrepreneurship spirit of America, people were making some coin off of this.
Gouging the price of a
More
motel,
than gouging, yeah. Oh yeah,
so you
more
can
than gouging.
so you can see the moon do what it does, and the moon charges nothing, by the way, despite the fact that it's working harder than the sun or the earth. There's no charge whatsoever for the eclipse.
When I went to Indiana for the one in 2017, they actually handed out free glasses. There was somebody walking around. If you didn't have glasses for to look at the moon, the eclipse, somebody handed you a pair of glasses.
The weird thing was not one reporter, not one network, not one local station said, "Where can you get the glasses?" No one said that they would be available to a certain place, or for a certain price, or for a certain exchange of gold over a period of days. There was no mention whatsoever about where you can get them and how you can know that they're approved for staring at the sun. Because you have to try them out yourself.
Well, now I had heard this morning on the news, as a matter of fact, what to look for. There's a ISO number, I guess, on the
Correct.
glasses. They have to be
You're right.
approved for that level. And the problem was is that if you waited till today to get the glasses, you were pretty much SOL. Um, Amazon was loaded with them. I looked a couple of weeks ago. I actually still have mine somewhere. Um, I stuck them in a box and brought them with me when I grabbed the boxes of stuff that I brought with me out here.
And do
And I
they
think,
work if you see if you can? Do they work for 3D movies too?
no, no, they don't. As a matter of fact, funny you mention that because I do have my 3D movie glasses here.
Those are
These are the
cool.
ones when I went to see what was it?
The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
No, it was immigration or immigrant or I don't know, migration. That was it. The little one with the ducks,
The
migrating.
cartoon, the cartoon. Yeah.
Yeah, the cartoon, and it was quite a nice cartoon, but you needed the 3D glasses to see it, right? And it was okay. I mean, it wasn't. It was. I thought it was a cute movie. Cute movie. Not. It wasn't like Soul, which was a great movie and had a great message and everything. I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know if the migration, the Ducks movie, there had a lot had the same effect on me or many people for that matter. But
I wonder if do they have glasses you can watch something in 1D.
that's what these are.
You
These
get
are
one
watching it.
dimension,
These are being able to see it all. As we get
another
older,
feeling.
your vision is definitely not what it used to be.
I have to use now combinations of glasses layered to get to be able to even read a phone.
Yeah, I have to. Yeah, I have. I have to. My vision is not getting any better. It's not getting worse, but it's not getting any better. That's for sure. Um, yeah, I mean, I use these, and then I have another pair that I use to read that have a bit more magnification to them. But my seeing things, especially seeing things at night, is not getting any better. As a matter of fact, it's getting worse. I tend to cut down on my driving at night, just because I can't see as much as I used to see, or maybe I see as much as I used to see, but it doesn't get to my brain the same way it used to get. So, uh,
Do you think it stops like at your tonsils or maybe your bicuspids instead of getting all the way to the brain?
I don't know where. Nah, it doesn't stop at my bicuspids, but it gets in there. It just goes somewhere where it never used to go. It doesn't make it all the
It's
way to where it's supposed to go.
perhaps it's stored for later.
Yeah, maybe I'll be walking down the street at some point later today and see the darkness of last night.
See where
You
you were
know who
going
is
last
a
night.
happy person today and has been for the last couple of weeks is Bonnie Tyler and the estate of Jim Steinman.
The Total Eclipse of the Hat.
Total Eclipse of the Heart. Steinman wrote it. Tyler sang it,
She
and
sure did.
well, Steinman has passed, as is Meatloaf. But that was one of the great songs that I mean, you talk about a songwriter that uh, wrote a bunch of stuff that people go, "Oh, he wrote that." The guy who loses out in this whole thing is a guy named Rory Dodd.
What did he do?
Have you ever heard of Rory Dodd?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Turn around, bright eyes.
He sang that line.
He's the guy that sang that line.
Well, I know who you mean, but it still doesn't ring a bell.
To the trivia question,
Who's that guy?
Who sings on the song with Bonnie Tyler?
Funny, I don't remember his
Bonnie had a
name.
couple of. Say again?
Funny, I don't recall his name from all the times I've heard that song.
Yeah, well, I don't think he's credited. I don't know that he's credited at all. Only through the through people who basically have not much to do with their lives, so they write about these things on the internet.
You'd have to see the full list of personnel on that cut to see his name.
Yeah. I mean, there's people who have gone back and looked at studio recording boxes and tapes and everything else to see who scratched down who the personnel were on many of these 70s, 60s, and 70s songs that credited to one person, but yet nobody ever credited the backup singers or this person or that person. As a matter of fact, what's the Pink Floyd song that has Doris Troy on it? I used to know this one. Doris Troy, who had the hit with "Just One Look," British singer, and she was on that that Pink Floyd album that was was the number one album for 30 years in a row.
Dark Side of the Moon. It could have been Us and Them.
Yeah. And I guess that's the song that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has chosen to play at the time the Eclipse hits Cleveland. They have been DJing it and putting up, different songs, moon songs, sun songs, I guess whatever they can find. And they, at the point of Eclipse, they have figured out that Eclipse by Pink Floyd is the song that they should be playing.
There's a Come to California spot running on television. Come to California, we're having a lot of fun, the sun's out, and the music behind it is the Electric Light Orchestra.
Yeah.
It makes no sense whatsoever. I don't understand that. I can't tell you how they made that decision. I have no problem with the ELO. I love Jeff Lynne and his work, but he's obviously English. The Electric Light Orchestra is obviously a British band. They have, although Jeff Lynne, I think, lives in Los Angeles now. What's the point of having ELO underneath the Come to California commercial?
Yeah, there's you would think that there are a whole bunch of California bands that would have had 30 seconds of music that they could have, and it's not even like a totally recognizable ELO song.
No, it's not. It'd be like putting.
That was their biggest song or something like that. I don't know if maybe it's the bounce of the ball because the people are kicking the ball around or whatever it is, but you're right. It does not make a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure Brian Wilson would have been able to give them a little something to put in there.
And if you didn't want somebody singing underneath the voiceover, use Dick Dale. Or the Chantays.
Yeah.
Get a surf song under
there. There were several bands that you could that had
Justify.
instrumentals, or If you
Yeah.
wanted the Beach Boys bad enough to represent California, you could have just dug out their 1966 album, Stack of Tracks, which was 12, I think, or 10 songs that they had just taken the vocal tracks out of and gave you a book with the lyrics. So at a party, you could just crank that thing up and be singing Sloop John B or Be True to Your School or Little Saint Nick, without vocal interruption from the Beach Boys. It always struck me as odd though that maybe one of the not maybe one, but maybe the best vocal group of all time, certainly one of the most harmonious groups of all time, would issue a record with no words on it.
Well, they owed so much to their studio players who put those tracks together. Be a great education for anyone who loves music or is a musician or studied the recording industry to take a look at those tracks without the vocals and say, this is how they put together the basic tracks of a great hit, and this is what it sounds like. And it's revealing because the tracks always sound different without the vocals on them.
Yeah, and it was always interesting too to me in studying the Beach Boys and knowing a little bit about the Beach Boys, how Brian Wilson was able to take what was in his head and tell Hal Blaine, the drummer, the famous studio drummer that they used on many of their records, no, I want tap to the tap, 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 not tap and a tap and a tap. And Blaine could understand basically what was going on in Wilson's head and be able to translate that and actually come out and play it.
And
Same
beautifully
thing with
so.
Carol Kay. Same thing with the bass player. I mean, Brian went into the studio and he was like a maestro, and he knew what he wanted, and he had to explain it to this seasoned bunch of musicians. Who's this 20-year-old punk telling us how to play this stuff?
And the funny thing is, they fostered a working relationship, which probably got smoother and smoother as the sessions went on. And the proof is right
Well, they
there.
realized they were working with Beethoven.
Yeah.
At some point, if you're a good musician and somebody presents that kind of a layering and technique to you that was not present in rock and roll music up until that time. The only
And
one who had done anything kind of like that was Buddy Holly, and then after that, George Martin with the Beatles.
right.
And as a matter of fact,
Crazy,
Brian Wilson
crazy,
said that's how he got influenced.
crazy Phil Spector too was made use of the same musicians in a different way, very different way.
Yeah. He was much more of the collective of instruments, the wall of sound, where Brian Wilson wanted distinct parts
Right.
in his arrangements. He wanted that guitar to stick out. He wanted that drum to stick out, or that conga, or whatever he was using in that particular song. Um,
The flugelhorn and the
when
glockenspiel.
whatever it was that they were using. I mean, Bob Crew did a little bit of it too with the Four Seasons um, on the East Coast. I mean, you heard the distinction of the glockenspiel, and you heard the distinction of a lot of the other instruments that they used. In some records, you heard the distinction of somebody banging on the phone book.
Hey,
that's
that
the
can
sound that they wanted.
the drumstick on a cardboard box is a great sound, undeniably.
Yeah, I mean, they would come up with all of this, all of this different. If you're into music, I mean, watch some of those the Phil Spector biographies, or the Brian Wilson stuff, or the Crew and Gaudio stuff, and how they came up with just different things that you hear in a record, and you don't. Maybe it doesn't click the first time you hear it, but when you hear that record in stereo, when you hear it in a clean remastered cut, you can hear what they were doing.
Was there a group of musicians equal to the Wrecking Crew on the East Coast that did the same kind of work, or was it a
Yeah,
more diverse?
yeah.
Was it
Well,
a
there
more
was the
diverse
group.
group?
There was a bunch of people that worked in the Brill Building and in the was it Hit Factory? I think there was a recording studio before Hit Factory that was in the same vicinity, and then Atlantic had a studio. Now I don't know if
1841 Broadway.
Atlantic was like at 1749 or
18,
something like that, Broadway, or 18 or so. It
eight,
was a block
eight,
up. Yeah, it was
1841.
a block up from the Brill Building,
It was at
and they had
it was the
offices and a
Columbus.
studio in there.
It was at Columbus Circle.
And yeah, but there was a group. I don't think that they were as closely associated as the Wrecking Crew. Um, but I think there was a ton of musicians that played on many of those, early '60s.
All those Lieber and Stoller hits, and they always described them as dun dun dun
Yeah.
dun dun. Dun.
Um, it was interesting too because as the Beatles came in, everything started to, you still had all of the, like the Dion and all of those, the musicians that worked behind um, the teen idol groups and, basically the Brill building groups from the late 50s to the early 60s. But then as the Beatles came in, everything kind of moved from New York out to LA and didn't pick up as much in New York, I don't think. Well, one of the interesting things about New York was they had a guy that ran the CBS studios in New York, and
Who
he
was
was
it?
not a fan of rock and roll.
Oh, Mitch Miller.
Mitch Miller,
He
who,
was head of A&R for Columbia, right?
yeah, he was the guy that ran the studios, and he was not a big rock and roll fan. He had his own thing that he was doing on television and with his group of vocalists. And I think they felt, and I don't know this for a fact, but a few people I've spoken to that were around in that time said that there were a lot of musicians in New York that just didn't feel like if they wanted to work, that Mitch didn't like the rock and rollers in the building. They didn't like
Right.
the young guys coming in and telling
Playing their
musicians
own
who had been
instruments.
playing there for years what to do. Whereas there was a much more open, casual relationship in California. So
Plus,
all of a sudden,
the guys in California were able to work without sheets and arrangements. They would do the head arrangement in the studio on the fly.
right, right, much
That was
more,
that was
much more formal um,
and that was their
in New
strength.
York,
Yeah.
which could be a good thing, but also could be a bad thing.
And
So
these Columbia studios were all union, so the clock was ticking on everything, and it
right,
wasn't what you would call the most creative atmosphere. It was more businesslike.
right, it was much more along the British model,
Mhm.
which I mean, those guys, people that played in England, I mean, they were all kind of working for
There
the
comes a helicopter
BBC.
disappearing into the eclipse. Goodbye.
Uh, don't let it go too far. So you had, I mean, it was just a different mindset in New York than it was, I think, in California. I mean, or at least that's what it seemed like to me, and from what I've read, maybe it was different, but it always seemed like there was just, New York was very rigid, very controlled, and very union, and very, almost modeled after the British um, thing where the musicians union and everything, the government had almost control there of what was going on.
And the product was very what you would call middle of the road in terms of its musical appeal.
Yeah, and there was there still was in England, I think, before the Beatles came along, a feeling that this rock and roll music was corrupting our children. Maybe we don't want.
You remember the engineers at Abbey Road were so structured. They wore white lab coats
Yeah,
when they would do the
yeah,
recordings, and they had a rule that the microphones couldn't be within a certain distance of the drum heads. So when they wanted Ringo to have a nice foot pedal sound on his kick drum, they put the mic closely, and the engineer would say, "No, you can't have it that close. Rules and regulations about that say it must be 8 inches, 6 inches, whatever the distance is." And now, of course, we laugh at that as what a ridiculous idea. You can't move the microphone to change the sound. How are you going to ever get a different sound if you don't move the microphone? But in fact, it's what they didn't want a different sound. They wanted reliable
they
volume
wanted it
coming
to
from,
come
from a
out
reliable source. The
as
same.
as as an Abbey Road BBC product.
Correct.
They wanted it to sound. They wanted everybody to sound have that British standard of sound.
Which
And
was a great standard, but it
but
flies
it
in the
was all
face of experimentation.
yeah. It wouldn't have flown very much longer because people were trying to do something different than the 3 minute pop song or the 2 minute pop song. Really, in those days, uh, I mean, and the trouble there was that people were so happy to get into the studio and make money and make records that many of the people did not question it.
No, they'd accept any restriction as long as they got to sing their song.
Yeah, I mean, that thing was, hey, I want to, I wrote this song and I want to get it on a record, and the girls will love me, and maybe I can even make some quid doing this.
A few quid.
A few. What's going on up in the sky there? Can you see anything, or don't look into
It
the
looks,
sun on my account?
it looks the sun is on the other side of my building, so I can't look right at it. But right now, it doesn't look like we're 50% in reduction. We're going to lose
Yeah,
fifty
I mean,
percent of the sun when the totality begins, and we could be on our way to that now. But right now, it looks like we have a full sun in the sky. That can't be,
now,
I know, because it's already begun.
now the big news would be if there was no eclipse, right?
If it was late,
Yeah,
or
if it was, and
or some
and I
lawyers
always say,
fired a
you don't know what's going on out there. So I mean, an asteroid comes along and knocks something off its course or something like that. I mean, we're talking about space. Everybody's sitting there like they're waiting for a train to come in at 5:37. And you know what happens if something's knocked off course a little bit?
You can always count on the moon. The moon is going to do its job today, and there will be an eclipse. But without the moon, you get nothing. You think that there would
Well,
be eclipse if all we had was like a palm tree? No.
well, if Mars got in the middle of it, that would be something.
I don't think we want Mars that close to the action. Gravity being a factor
Not
here.
saying, I'm just saying. You probably got these little people running around on Mars going, "Here's a chance for us to really screw up Earth." Bezos thinks he's going to get Amazon up here. We got our own thing. We got Marzipan. Uh,
Marzipan.
Marzipan, yes. We got marzipan. We have all your packages are delivered in a pan. We've been doing it for years. This Bezos doesn't have any new ideas. He's making rockets that look like dicks. I mean, have you ever seen one of those rockets? I mean, it looks like a dick. I mean, it seems to be like him and Musk are and Branson
Oh
too. I mean,
God.
the three of them are making spaceships that look like dicks.
Well, they're troubled, Vinny. You know that you've known this for a while that it was all going to come out in the
One has a
wash.
big, thick one. The other guy has a little skinny one. But then they all have the thing on the top. I mean, it's
Technical term, the thing on the top.
the thing on the top, the thing, the capsule or whatever it is that launches them into space. So I don't know.
By the way, I
I
don't know
don't
if
know.
you saw the first two parts of the special of the Columbia shuttle that blew up.
I did not. I have it taped, and I'm going to watch it. So don't spoil it for me. But I do know how it ends.
Well,
So
yeah, you know the ending, but the production of the totality of the piece was excellent.
yes, CNN is doing some really good. Their Sunday night. I mean, the Anderson Cooper thing is really good, and then the documentaries that they've been turning out on Sunday nights, and I mean all of that stuff from the Stanley Tucci in Italy stuff is kind of where it
That was
started, and then
excellent.
they picked up as they've been going along, and
By the way, if you
uh,
never saw that, do not watch Stanley Tucci goes to Italy on an empty stomach. You will not be happy. You got to have some pasta at least to get through the
yeah, that
evening.
was I mean this was a TV series that you gained 5 pounds watching it.
Yep.
If there was no food in a way, just looking at it. Um,
If you walk
but
by
no,
and say,
see,
"How's the show
doing a
going?
great
Could we have
job.
some more? Could we have some more bread, please?"
Yeah, and he traveled all over the place. And I mean he wasn't Anthony Bourdain-ish, if you will, but he did it in his own style, in his own way, and I thought it was a very well done series, very informative series. I've got a list of 10 places I would love to eat when I get to Italy, because of Stanley Tucci.
Oh God, yes, at least 10.
Yeah, I mean, it was just mind blowing. What
And I thought what stuck with me mostly, what just crossed my mind, was that when he was in Roma, he said that more people eat pasta in Rome than any other place in Italy. It is not just the fact that pasta and Italy go together well, but in the city of Rome, pasta, pasta, more pasta. And then when you're done with that, have something to eat and have some pasta.
Yeah, yeah, it's and they do things with it that we don't see here in America.
No,
Different
simple
sauces and
things.
yeah, simple stuff. I mean, they take like basil leaves and throw it in a pot and make a ragu out of it and slap it onto the pasta. I mean, they really
Now
do
I'm
a
hungry again.
an interesting job of taking this stuff and so the eclipse is going.
One thing,
The
there's three things
interesting
that I was
thing is,
looking for. Yes.
will it change anything? You think? I mean, people are saying, well, Americans are going to come together watching this, and maybe this will. I mean, I think people are nuts if they think that all of a sudden the differences in political um, division will go away.
Might make a couple kids more interested in science, but that's the one thing that Texas lives in violation of. They don't want science. They don't want any scientific
Right?
thought
They
or any
want,
science.
yeah, no. If you go to Texas, this is Jesus that has moved the sun
Jesus,
in the middle of the
Jesus walking in front of the lamp and casting a
right. This
shadow
is
on the
Jesus
earth.
moving the moon in front of the sun to warn us all. I mean, I'm sure that what's his name there? The big preacher down there, Osteen. I almost said Roy Orbison.
Same thing. Same damn thing.
Really, that was different. Is probably encouraging people that this is God's sign to send him $5,000.
a day,
or
$5,000 a
yeah,
day.
something along those lines. Like empty out your bank account, send it to me. Uh, Otherwise, Jesus will not let the moon pass the sun, and we'll be locked in this for a century.
Until he gets his
Maybe,
money.
yeah, yeah. I'm surprised. I mean, I haven't turned on the Christian Broadcasting Network. They had a TBN, but I'm sure that there's a
They have their own
religious
spin on
angle
it.
to this.
Yeah. Oh, oh God, yes. And it has to do with money.
Send me money. If you don't send me $50, I won't let the. I will tell God not to let the moon go past the sun.
We have to pause for a moment for a sports story that is near and dear to all New York Mets fans. The great Jerry Grody died over
Yeah,
the weekend at the age of 81. And the tribute paid to him by the pitchers that worked with him when he was a Met was great, saying he was a great receiver, somebody they never had to shake off.
he knew how to call a game for the. As posted on Facebook last night about this, that for everything I've read and interviewed and talked to, um, pitchers to a man said that he just knew how to handle each one individually. You had five,
Yeah.
6, 8 different egos and different people, and he knew how to handle. He knew that he had to handle Seaver differently than he had to handle Kuzman, and he knew that he had to handle Don Cardwell differently than he handled Jack DeLauro, and he knew that he had to handle DeLauro differently than he handled Ron Taylor, and then he had Tug McGraw, and he knew he had to handle Tug very, very differently than Tom Seaver, all the rest of them,
And think of
and
all
he had
those
that
pitchers.
sense.
Yeah. Think of all those pitchers you mentioned, and each one throwing different pitches in different situations with different
Yeah,
speeds, with different confidence. And Grody had to know that, well, his slider is not working today. We got to throw the change up here.
yeah, and he handled well. He got that pitching staff uh, to beat the best pitching staff in baseball. I mean,
Compete
not just
and
him,
win.
but in the World Series they beat. What did they have? 5 20-game winners, or 4 20-game winners on that staff in
By the way, who are
Baltimore.
you picking tonight? UConn or Purdue?
I I kind of like UConn. I just think they're a well disciplined machine, man, and they got two young guys. Well, they have a lot of young guys, but the two
Yeah, they
guys that
do.
they brought in to take place are the two guys that they lost to the NBA. They just seem to be firing on all cylinders.
Well, you're right about
You
that,
know,
but that's why I'm picking Purdue because I thought Iowa was going to beat South Carolina on the women's side, and I was terribly wrong about that. So I'm picking an upset with Zach Edey leading the way, 7'4" star for Purdue.
I think it'll be interesting to watch the big men go at it. Both of them have size.
I'm looking for Purdue to
Um,
eclipse UConn. There you go.
yeah, there you go. I like that. Yeah, I just think that team, and the interesting thing about UConn is they have experience. They've been there. They know the pitfalls.
Yep.
From winning last year, they know their coach knows their team knows um, what they need to do and how not to over you know how not to get too caught up in it, how to play it as any other game as opposed to, even though it's not any other game, you got to try to play it like it's any other game.
But
So,
UConn doesn't have to do anything special to win. UConn is prepared
yeah,
and
yeah, that's
is
a very good point, Michael. Is UConn is good enough to win it just playing their game.
right.
Um, Purdue. will have to probably do something above and beyond to win the game. And will they have it in them? No, yeah, they have it in them. They got there, and it's always hard to go against our friend Steve Scheffler and
Never,
or his brother
never, never,
Tom,
never.
who was a huge star at Purdue back in the I want to say the '80s, right? But be that as it may, I'll stick with UConn to repeat. I just think it's
And I'll stick with Mrs. Scheffler, who had to feed those boys as they were growing up. Don't think that was easy.
yeah.
You
I
just
think
had
yes,
you just had lunch. Yeah, but mom, I'm hungry.
I can't imagine that Steve's wife Kim has an easy time feeding him even now. He's a big, tall boy, man.
Somebody's got to
As
feed
a matter
that
of
big
fact, it's
boy.
funny. I think Steve is in the food business. I forget exactly what his deal is, but he's. Last time I talked to him, he had some food importing company or distributing company or something like that in
Hmm.
Indiana. So I'm sure he'll
Well,
probably be at the game tonight.
oh, absolutely. He'll be in the totality of it. Nothing will eclipse Scheffler's presence.
Michael, you're hitting him on all cylinders, man.
I'm freezing out here.
Well, who thought? I mean, not for nothing. Well, it's cold here too. I mean, there's nothing here that's gonna warm us up unless the moon pulls the sun closer to the earth.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, gravity does funny things up there with there's
But
no
there's a
atmosphere.
downside. There's a downside when planets move close to the sun. I just want to put that in there for the Texans who are cursing the science involved in today's events.
Yeah, but they're convinced in Texas that they'll survive. That no
They'll
matter
pull
what
through.
happens, Texas is going to, the rapture could come. I saw somebody on Facebook. I thought this was funny. Somebody wanted to get that was in Texas, wanted to get like 1,000 blow up dolls and fill them with helium and release them as the
For the
eclipse was
rapture.
coming. It would look like the rapture. It's the best idea I'd heard all week.
Texas should have the rapture like every day at like 1 p.m. You finish
Yep,
with lunch, time for the rapture.
time for the rapture. Let's go outside. Well, it's raining. That's okay.
You'll see
You're
what
gonna
I
have
mean.
it anyway. Oh my God. All right. Well, don't look up into the sky, but Mama, that's where the fun is. As
Ain't
Bruce
it the
Springsteen
truth? As
so well
Bruce
wrote,
Springsteen and Manfred Mann both
and
said
Manfred
equally.
Mann. Both Bruce wrote it, Manfred sang it, and we should live by it. So don't do anything dumb. Don't look up into the eyes. I guess the only place you're really going to be able to see this thing clearly, they're saying. Now, I saw a report from
Indianapolis has got a really good view of it.
Indianapolis.
Cleveland,
Cleveland has looks like they had clear skies,
yeah,
and then Maine is going to be the other place where you can really see it
clear
clearly
skies.
and for a long period of time. I think they have 4 minutes of totality.
And if you have a pterodactyl or a Komodo dragon or an earthworm for a pet, don't be alarmed if they act strangely during the totality. But the first rule of business is if you have a doggy or a kitty, if you're having fun, they're having fun. They won't even notice.
Yeah, I mean, when do you really see a dog or a cat look up at the sun? I mean, they're smarter
No,
than humans. They know. They look up and they go, I don't know.
I don't see anything different. Why is today different from all other days?
Yeah, why do I? It's getting dark and I don't feel tired.
So I'm not
Usually it
going to
gets
bed.
dark 7 o'clock at night. Daisy is over in the corner there with her paw over her arm over her leg over her head. She kind of just but
She knows how to
she's gonna go.
relax. She's not going
The
to.
other
She's not
one
going to
there,
upset her schedule.
Yeah, no, it's her schedule, and the world's got to go by it. Um, so, so I think that we'll probably get this thing if we survive this. If it doesn't, if the moon doesn't go crashing into the sun, if the sun doesn't go crashing into the earth, if Putin doesn't throw a bunch of people out a window, let's talk. Let's do this.
There was a country artist who I'm not familiar with who got arrested over the weekend for throwing a chair off the roof of a bar. And it brought to mind something that happened once. There used to be a bar next to the Bitter End in the Village, New York's Greenwich Village. And one
Yeah.
night there was a guy out on the street. We were in the bar having drinks, and there's a picture window, and we see the guy on the street, and he's taking his belt off, and he's slapping at this invisible tiger or monster or whatever it is. And somebody in that building threw a table off the roof to shut this guy up, and it slams right behind him. Doesn't hit anybody. If it had, it would have killed him instantly. The table hits the street, shatters into pieces, and the guy looks at it, and then it goes right back with his belt. The work that he was doing, it was important work. He hadn't finished. He hadn't dispatched the monster yet. But the fact was, nobody arrested the guy who threw the table, which is what they did in Nashville last night. They arrested the country star who threw the chair off the roof because it could have caused grievous damage.
Why he thought it would be a good idea to throw a table off a roof?
They had plenty of chairs, but the table didn't fit them. It just didn't work. It wasn't an agreeable picture to him. He was going to get another table, so he didn't need that one anymore. And the guy was yelling in the street and bothering him. So table off the roof. It seemed to be the right thing to do at the right time. And he was just lucky he didn't hit anyone.
I could see his point. I mean, I threw a tire off a roof once.
Of course you did.
And luckily, I mean, it was 4:00 in the morning, and it took
How
out
many
a few
stories
egg
up were you? Somebody's got a story to tell. So I was asleep at 4 a.m. My air conditioner goes flying out the window. What caused on that? Somebody threw a tire off the roof. What? Wait, go back to the beginning. What happened?
We had a spare tire that we found, and we were up at 5:00, 4:00 in the morning to go do our paper routes because the Sunday paper in New York comes out. The Sunday paper comes out at 3:00, and you got to deliver it early in the morning, even if it's an afternoon paper. It comes anyway. So me and 5 of my friends, we go up on the roof of this guy Jimmy Calvi's building, take the tire up there, and so we're going to throw the tire off of the building, throw it so that it will bounce in the street over the parked cars and see how far it'll bounce. Well, as we're holding the tire up on the ledge, because you got to push it off. Otherwise it's going to go straight down.
Yep.
And one of my friends just comes up behind me and taps the tire.
Gone.
And it goes like straight down. And all you hear is crash, crash, crash.
Speaking of gone, my computer just warned me that unless I plug it in, it's going to turn off. So
yeah, all right, we'll let you go. Anyway, bottom line is we knocked like 3 air conditioners out of the windows of the building, and the cops didn't get us, but Mr. T, who ran the newspaper office, did get us, and it was worse than if the cops got us.
Yeah.
We would have preferred the cops getting us. All right, I will see you Wednesday. If the Lord's will and the creek don't rise and the moon keeps moving past the sun, which we...
all that will happen. Good to see you, Vinnie.
Michael, good to see you too. Peace, love, eclipsation, and Manischewitz.
Eclipsation. I'm going to leave it with that. That's the beautiful word of the day. Enjoy your eclipsation. And if you have a pterodactyl at home, giving them a ball to play with when the totality hits.
Peace, brother. See you later.
Gone.
Thank you all for listening to our little Eclipse show here. We'll catch up with you on Wednesday morning. Thank you. Bye now.